Mess Around Coaches Show edition, as we do every Thursday night. At least we record on Thursday nights. You can see the name and group of the artists that brought us in tonight down in our description. We're still tinkering around with our new opening music. It's going to be fun. We're looking forward to finishing that right when we get done with our spring break time, when we're just kind of doing our mess around, the double mess of the mess around time here in the springtime. And, we focus on the NFL a lot, but I think on the Coaches Show, we want to really start focusing on other sports. And I think this is the perfect time with the playoffs going on. So this will be the first of the new shows where the Coaches Show has no NFL boundaries, has no walls, has no ceiling, has no floor. It's a mess around. And we have knowledgeable sports people on the show, so we're going to take advantage of that. And I'm looking forward to it. I got Coach Christopher Taylor in here with me, Coach Shayne McGowan. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, man. Great to be on.
Great to be on. Looking forward to tonight and lots of playoffs and everything that's hopping around. So let's get this sucker going.
That's the sound of a man whose team is winning in the playoffs. Good man. Why don't we start with that? First of all, folks, if you listen to the show, you like the show, shoot us an email and we will get to you. Knuckleheadpods, that's knuckleheadpods@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter @Knuckpods. Same with Facebook. Just search @Knuckpods, KNUCKPODS. All right, Shayne, tell us about your Jets. Tell us about what's going on in the playoffs, and then we're going to jump into kind of really deep diving into the miracle that is Vegas.
Well, you know what? Exactly. Right now we are just finishing it off. We got about 3 minutes left in the final game, which is the Winnipeg Jets against the Nashville Predators, and the Jets are winning 4-1 as it stands right now with 3 minutes to go. So the Jets will be advancing to the Western Conference against the Vegas Knights, and on the other side you've got Tampa also going against Washington Capitals, who also did a huge defeat of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So there is a lot of things happening right now in the NHL that are surprising, wowing, and amazing the fans and everybody alike. And like I said, we're going to talk a little bit on this, especially here on the West, when we're looking at not only the Winnipeg Jets making it to a second round, but also Western Conference, but an expansion team, first year in, making it to the Western Conference themselves. I mean, this is absolutely amazing and the best playoffs that you could ever ask for. So it's going to be a hoot. It's going to be unbelievable. And if you've seen anything televised right now, you'll see the whiteout that happens here in Winnipeg, and the fans are going crazy as it is. And that's what it's going to be like. And they love it. They're loving it. And they have every right to, just like Vegas does as well, too. So it's going to be great. And even on the Washington side, too. The Capitals have done something that they needed to do, which was get over that hump of beating the Pittsburgh Penguins. So like I said, this is just amazing time right now.
All right, Coach Taylor. So why don't we ask you a little bit about, why you picked Vegas to win. And then I got a couple of questions for you too, and for our resident hockey nut there, Coach Shayne McGowan. But why don't you tell us about your Vegas love, how you picked Vegas to win, and why you did? And then we're going to ask Shayne a couple questions about Vegas.
Well, truthfully speaking, I only followed Vegas initially because they were an expansion team in Las Vegas. Las Vegas at one point in time was one of my favorite places to visit. And so now with the Raiders and the Vegas Knights both being in Las Vegas, is just adding to the attraction that is the desert, that's in the desert anyhow. So, but from initially, that's how it started. In fact, it was. I think your Jets just scored again, brother. I think it's 5-1 now.
It's 5-1. Like we are rolling. We are rolling into Vegas, baby.
That's the point. So. But I did get a chance to watch Vegas, and one thing that's interesting about the expansion team and the expansion draft that is in the NHL is that each team can only protect so many top tier players, and the rest of them, are suspect to, being drafted. And so I think Vegas had with along with that and some good in-house scouting that they did, they put together a pretty solid team and not a whole lot of big names, but they play big. So I was very impressed, and initially it just was an interest because Vegas got a hockey team. Oh, how funny is that? They got you're gonna have an ice rink in the middle of a desert. Then I'm making jokes. A hockey team in the hottest place in the world, but hey, they're doing pretty good.
And that's an interesting because that was one of the problems. I remember I used to do some real estate, some house flipping and stuff back in when everyone was doing it in the 2000s, and Vegas was real big into that. And I remember when they were developing all these new homes, one of the big deals was water. So I guess they're getting that all fixed. It's crazy how far Vegas has come. So Shayne, let me ask you to maybe let me make this question quick since I got some background noise. Uh, what are the couple of players or couple of moves that the Vegas guys made that really just made this such a miracle team? And do you think that someone, in the next expansion draft, someone could replicate this pretty easily, or is this like a one? Are we watching history here?
Well, you know what? First and foremost, Vegas, did an amazing job at picking up, again, like Coach Taylor had said, is you have to understand how the system works, is that this is an expansion team that's allowed to pick your players off of all the teams to make them a team. So you can only leave so many protected. And when you've got so much talent, and a lot of these teams do where they are 3-4 deep, they can only protect so many players. They have to give up people that are available. And that's what Vegas did. They felt that this is the type of direction we're going to go with speed. We've got a good, and it starts with your goaltending. Marc-Andre Fleury is without a doubt the man's won Stanley Cups with the Penguins. He's done everything that's been needed of him, and that's where it starts, is in net, and that's who they got. And this guy has shined. And they also got some good backups that helped throughout the season when he was down out for a little bit. They've got some fast goal scorers with the class Carlson, as well as O'Neill and other guys like that play up front. They are doing an amazing job. There's no question about that. But the biggest thing is you have to understand, though, is that when it comes to expansion, and I don't know if you're going to see many more teams doing expansion as much as we might see teams relocating. As an example, Arizona, the Phoenix Coyotes, I believe that they are going to be relocated, just like Florida Panthers, I believe, will be relocated. So now that's a team just going into a city of Seattle, who I believe is going to be the next on the block to get a team. That doesn't mean you're going to be getting the best players. You're just getting that team that's coming in there. Just like how Atlanta Thrashers came back to Winnipeg. That's, it's the Jets, but it's technically from Atlanta. So there's a lot of things that go on when it comes to these expansions and etc. So I don't think you're ever going to see, not for a little while, an expansion team as much as you're going to see a relocated, just because of teams that are financially in trouble. But this is something that is unique of what Vegas has done. But like I said, when you can pick the cream of the crop on a lot of teams to make up a team, you've done really well.
And to add to that, Coach, one of the things that you brought about just the array of talent that they were able to get, but they picked up talent from all over the world. You're talking about Germany, Sweden, Czech Republic, Finland, Czechoslovakian players all over the place. There's like maybe 5 U.S.-born players. Everybody else is from all over the world, and they got an array of talent. And like you said, even the guys that come off the bench, they are like fast. They skate really fast. They get back fast. They defend, and so like you said, they put together a good team. Now, I do agree with you. I do see a lot of these smaller markets that are not packing out stadiums because, let's be honest, Arizona is a baseball team and a football team, so the hockey, probably doesn't do well, but you would think it would.
Well, the problem is Arizona shot themselves by having to relocate almost 3 times in that state, and they've made it so far that people don't want to drive almost 2 hours to a game and then 2 hours home after. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just doesn't make sense for them. So that's a team that's going to be moving soon.
Oh yeah, but no one venue could really hold them because they couldn't really. Well, we can't really sell here. We're going to try Tempe. We couldn't really do well here, so we're going to try here. That kind of thing.
And they also don't.
But it also comes
Yeah.
down to winning. You need a team that wins.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't really have a culture. I mean, you can create a culture. You have a culture in Arizona where the kids don't grow up playing, and you don't have a lot of transplants from colder
Hey,
areas.
Austin Matthews is who plays for Toronto's from Phoenix.
I just said not a lot. I didn't say zero.
But
I'm
but
sure
the
there are
thing is
some.
though, is that you still didn't even when the Jets were relocated to Phoenix, because that's where they went right off the hop, they still didn't get the love. You know what I mean?
No,
It
and
Right.
was just one of those things where it's like a Disneyland. I'm going to take a
the,
ride on this for one time, and boom, there it goes.
the only
Mm-hmm.
hockey city I've seen on the West Coast that they built it, and now it's also because they don't have any other team there. But they love hockey is San Jose.
Oh
I live
yeah,
Yeah.
in
big
San
time.
Jose, and they
Yeah.
they love the Sharks there. I mean, they live and die for the Sharks down in San Jose. So I mean, it can be
Yeah.
done. Russell Wilson is part of that group that's redoing the whole indoor sports scene up in Seattle, trying to get the NBA to come back there. They got good ownership up there now. That place is
Hey,
so beautiful.
look,
It's popping. They would do great for a hockey team. Any team that
I'm
went
gonna
there and Seattle
I'm going to
colors,
tell you
they
right
would
now, though.
rock.
I'm going to tell you right now. Seattle was the team that was supposed to get the expansion draft. They were supposed to get it before Vegas. They were ahead of Vegas. They dropped the ball because of management. That's all it was. They dropped the
Yeah.
ball. Management went, oh, we made some mistakes. The NHL said, next in line is Vegas. Let's see what you can do. And bam. So
Yeah.
technically, Seattle would have had this team probably, right, of what's going on.
Or the bulk of it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
But
that's
Seattle is next because they got their stuff together. They are next to be getting a team.
And you got Vancouver right there too. So you have a lot of people that like to come to Seattle watch games. Especially if they're in the same
It works
division as the
back and
Canucks.
forth. You betcha.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be great. All right, well, good luck to your Jets. I
No,
hope they look good.
I'm going to the Stanley Cup. It's all good. It's going to be playing here in my backyard. I'm good, man.
And I'm looking at some of my teams and just being reminded about how you got to really just enjoy it when your team gets to the playoffs. Because when you start to look at a window close and you're like, man, this might not open for a bit. So I feel you, man. Enjoy, rock out. On the other side, I guess indoor as well, talking about bringing in, redoing the stadiums there in Seattle so they could bring in a hockey team. They'll also be looking at an NBA team. It's NBA playoff time. And the picture's starting to get clearer and clearer as we get closer to the final. Coach Taylor, what did you see over this past week at NBA, and what do you see going forward?
Well, I will say this: we ended up with the matchups that we pretty much in the beginning of the season figured we would see. A matchup between Houston and Golden State, as well as Cleveland and Boston. But the route that we got there was, the route, the path not well worn. Uh, you kind of felt that the Celtics, after losing Hayward and then messing around losing Kyrie Irving, would not make it make it as far, but they have done an excellent job. They're young, they're athletic, they defend, and they play well. But on the other hand, on the other side of that ball, there is that man LeBron, and he doesn't have the best talent around him. A lot of streaky shooters around him. Outside of him, the next All-Star player is probably Kevin Love. Everybody else is just like a role player, and LeBron has just been wheeling these guys to victory, putting the Cavs on his back and taking them. So it's kind of hard to go against the Celtics. To go against Boston. Go against the Cavs with long as they have LeBron. But this should be interesting for that aspect. And then Golden State and Houston is what we expected to see. But I just don't think Houston has enough defenders to be able to play against Golden State because, you have basically a five-headed monster when you look at the fact that Steph Curry can kill you, Iguodala can kill you, Klay Thomas can kill you, Kevin Durant can kill you, and then don't let Draymond get, hot, and he's your last option. So they look pretty good to me.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I think these were the matchups that everybody was looking at as the finals, and you're right. The route that these teams got to, especially out in the East. Philadelphia, they're a young team, and that's a team I'd really be watching in the next little while. I think they're kind of one guy away, maybe two coming off the bench to
LeBron to
actually.
Philly.
Well, hey, anything's possible. I'll tell you that much, right? But
Yeah.
with Boston being injured, almost throughout the entire season, like we had talked about before, and to do what they've done is absolutely unbelievable. And kudos to them. And that's a well coached team too, to keep them in par with everybody else.
Yeah, and when you consider, we talking with Houston and Golden State. I mean, Houston did an excellent job this year of having the best record, and I think that will be the most difficult part of this series.
I think
For
Houston has
Golden
to get
State,
hot. They got to get hot fast if they want
they got to stay
to
hot.
play with Golden State. Exactly.
And the isolation basketball doesn't work well against Golden State because they move the ball around so well, so fluidly and so quickly, and always looking for the next open shot. Any one of those guys can like I said, can kill you from the 3-point shot. So that's a lot to ask Houston to defend. And Houston doesn't run up and down the court as fast as people tend to think.
Right.
Yeah, especially as Golden State. Right.
And that's why ball control is going to be huge for Houston. They really have to make sure that they are in control out there because, again, you start letting Golden State get on a run, I mean, all of a sudden you're down by 12. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. So they really have to have better ball control and stay in control throughout the series.
And Chris Paul has played really well considering this is the first peak that we've got to see him this far in the postseason. And, a couple of those games, he showed up solid with a 40-point game the other night.
He's having fun. He's having fun out there.
He is. But this is the challenge that he's going to have because if you eliminate the two best players on both teams, right, with Houston, that would be Harden, and with Golden State, that would be Steph Curry. Now, what do you have left? Now, the only other person that is any kind of threat would be Chris Paul. You're looking at the rest of the team for Golden State is a threat. Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Iguodala, or like we said, Draymond. And that's the thing here. Because I think the best players on both teams offensively are also the biggest defensive liabilities on both teams. Let's be honest.
And that's why Houston definitely is looking at that bench saying we need everybody to play. We need everybody to contribute and play. If you can't shoot, you got to be able to defend. You know what I mean? Right. You got to be able to do something as a role out there. And I think that's what Houston's looking at from their bench and from the other guys.
We have to be honest about two things. If the Splash Brothers get hot from the arc, there's nothing you can do, period. And there's no one in the East that can beat either of those teams in the West, I don't think. Do you guys agree, disagree?
Oh, agree, absolutely. Absolutely agree. They have to get hot, they have to stay hot. The problem with Klay Thompson is that the ball moves around so much. Once he gets hot, they have to move the ball around. He doesn't stay hot. But man, he's a person that can potentially light it up. After that, you have nobody else on the Rockets with Ariza, but Ariza is a streaky shooter himself. He's not someone that could carry a team for you through a series. If you understand what I mean, he's not that player.
Yeah, Gordon can get hot behind the arc.
Oh yeah.
But that's not something. But you can't sustain that for a 7-game series. I don't think
that's what I'm saying. There are a lot of streaky shooters, but you can't really call which. If you think about that, which player on Golden State would you say is a streaky shooter?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I mean, but if you look at the Rockets, Gordon is hot, but he's streaky as well. But when he's hot, he's hot though. So.
Yeah, and they got those forwards. They can all shoot behind the arc. When Houston gets hot behind the arc, they can just launch from downtown all night long. But once again, like that's streaky, like you said. I think that's a good word to use for it. It's not something you can sustain against a well-coached team and a team that's all those same players been playing together for a couple of years now. And I also want to say on something that Coach Shayne said. I agree 100% on Philly being the next thing. I think they are putting together a good team. They're doing it the right way. They got a lot of young talent. They got money. I think they're gonna really blow up. I think they're like you said. I think they're like a piece away, and maybe Simmons coming back as even though he hasn't played like a rookie, he's still, I think, it's still a rookie year. Comes back a little smarter, a little more mature, gets some of that, gets a little
He
more of that NBA frame, the NBA weight room on
look
him, and
he
he gets
made
damage.
he came out and said the same thing, is that during the games, I mean, he was overthinking out there. He made the classic errors of letting the game get to him instead of being able to take it to the game. And it happens at that age, and it happens with that pressure, and you're overwhelmed, and a lot's happening in this playoff. So I mean, he learned from it. Next season, and they get it, like you said, injury free to a certain degree, you're going to see a team that's really unbelievable, I believe.
Well, I can share this with you. The more impressive rookie to me over Ben Simmons, in these playoffs has been Jason Tatum. You're talking about a kid out of
Yeah,
Duke University
Yeah.
that was 19 years old starting in an NBA team that was supposed to be, maybe at the bottom of the barrel without their two superstars. And man, they play well. He's not afraid. And you look at also Donovan Mitchell at Utah. Man, he put on a stellar performance again. That man,
that's who I thought you were
Mitchell.
going to say was Mitchell.
Yeah, well, I think both of these guys were over. I say Jason Tatum because Jason Tatum was 19 in the NBA. And
Yeah,
the other guys were older. I think that's what's impressive about Jason Tatum. But however, Donovan Mitchell, the performances that this kid put on, to me, he deserves rookie of the year consideration, and it's a little bit unfair that you would consider Ben Simmons a rookie, even though I think Ben Simmons did an excellent job, not to take anything away from him. But he had a year to practice with the team, to sit on the NBA bench and watch the NBA game from the seat next to the coaches, next to the players, doing those kind of things. And I think that kind of thing had an advantage over guys coming straight from college, going straight to the NBA.
yeah. Still, yeah. Like you said, you're not taking anything away from the guy. Still pretty impressive, and you take
Oh
that
yeah,
with Embiid, with Sarge, with some of the other pieces they have on that team. I think that team is looking pretty good. So I want to agree with you. So before actually, I want to talk about a young player in the NFL in a second, but there's a whole story I want to get to. Before I do that, since I got you guys here, I'm starting to dig into the story with Mark Ingram and the suspension and what's going on with that. And apparently, the test is from the end of last year. He already appealed it and was denied. So I mean that by the time we found out about it, the appeal had already been done and denied. He's saying that it's not a PED, it's not a controlled substance, it's something else. Um, can you shed a little light on what you think and what you've heard there, Coach Shayne? We'll start with you about this, and then we'll get to what it means for the Saints. But what have you heard about this testing, and what experience have you had about with some of these pitfalls in the testing system that exists right now?
Well, I mean, look, it's going to depend exactly. I mean, you could take some herbs that sometimes raise the testosterone levels too by a fraction. Like, you know what I mean? You look at Canella, who had tainted beef, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden it's raised a level, and then all of a sudden it's not raised anymore. So there's a lot of things that happen. The problem is NFL does, I'll say this, a fairly good job at testing these guys and coming up with what is positive. So Ingram, I think, is one of these guys that's kind of doing the same thing like everybody else has done numerous times, and that's try to backtrack it out of there and say, well, it's a sports supplement that was in it. The problem is, what's banned and what's not.
exactly.
And if you don't know, you pay somebody to find out for you. You're making millions of dollars. So, I mean, it's common sense here to get you and do your homework. And this is what I think really ticks me off the most is these guys know that, but they choose to take another route. And in this case, you know what? It is what it is. He got busted. He got tested. If he's smart, just go do the 4 games. Look at
Yeah.
you try to keep going and going and going. You're gonna wind up like how the Cowboys were last year with Zeke being thrown out right when you needed him the most instead of just taking what he got because you got it anyways. You know what I mean? Just do the bloody time, finish it off, understand that, don't take what you took. Simple as that, and you get back in it.
Yeah, he's got no choice. He doesn't get to appeal like Zeke did. But I want to bring something over to you, Coach Taylor, because Ian Rappaport came out with something today saying that prior to this, the the team was negotiating with Ingram about his contract, and he wasn't happy with the extensions that they're putting forward. He hadn't been into the facility yet, even before the suspension came out, and on top of that, you're allowed to go and practice with the team and be at the facility all the way up until the season starts. And it looks like he might decide not to go there. So that's starting to seem a little bit fishy to me. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, this is something to add from my experience with drug testing in that respect. If you get a 4-game suspension, it is because you've been warned before or tagged before. And it's very rare that a person that this happens to the first time, and Coach Shayne, you can vouch for this as well. But if 4-game suspension usually means this is you've been identified or tagged or red flagged.
You've been popped before.
You've
been popped before. So
that's true.
So with that being said, at this point, this is just either arrogance or ignorance. And I don't know how long you could use the term ignorance, because if you have a trainer that's giving you supplements, it's your job, or it's his job, to know what substances can and can't be. And to be truthful, the NFL is proactive. They give you a list of things that they are saying this is an absolute no.
And that list is long.
It is long. It is. And so the fact of the matter is, there's no excuse. When you get popped, it's because you're either ignorant or arrogant. And in most cases, it has nothing to do with arrogance.
I want to bring something up, but you just mentioned, I think it's ignorance or arrogance when you get popped multiple times. So the fact that it's a 4-game suspension, the example I'm about to use doesn't really go to Ingram. But I think that something a lot of people don't know is when it comes to vitamins, supplements, herbs, it's very loose on how they regulate those. So what it says on the back isn't always what's in it. And also it isn't, there's a lot of loose regulations. I mean, all that stuff isn't coming off with someone testing it in a lab every time a batch comes out. There's a lot of things, something doesn't come up. I don't think people realize just how kind of false a lot of the stuff in the health world is. You're listening to other people, that's what I'm saying is you listen to people unless you were working with a professional and you're sticking with your one guy. Because I notice a lot of times this stuff happens in the off season. So people start taking stuff from their buddy at the gym. They start working with other people outside of their team doctors, their team trainers. And that's, I think, when this stuff starts to happen a little bit. Now, in a case like this, where you have a multi-million-dollar high-end player who has been popped multiple times, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, but you got to understand is that the health protection branch, right, only gives a guideline in many of these supplements, all right? And it's now up to you, and which is now the NFL saying, listen, we don't want this, we don't want that. You can't take this, you can't take that. So you have to be very picky. But all of a sudden, you're getting more supplement companies saying, hey, we want you to be our sponsor. Hey, we want you to be on the front ad of this, this, and this. Meanwhile, you got people making it in their basement sometimes. I mean, there's nothing that's necessarily clean, sterile, put through the ringers with 5 gold stars saying this is legal and everything like that. Sometimes a combination of mixtures overdoes it. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to, that people need to understand. But that's what I'm saying is that these guys know, and this is just supplements. But now let's be honest. I mean, you take a testosterone booster, all of a sudden, bam, you're going to get tagged. I mean, this is what these guys have to understand. And that's pretty much what it's coming down to in many ways. And they're going to get harder and harder. But he's been popped already to get a 4-game suspension. So he should have known better after the first time around.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree with that. So
no sympathy.
I'm not trying to have sympathy for the guy. I just think it's an interesting subject. There's a lot of,
But now let's look at this, though, is that what does this do to the Saints for the first 4 games?
Yeah.
What kind of run game? What kind of run game are they going to have, and what are they going to do?
Well, I think they still have, solid pieces in their running game, and they always find, a way, a system, a package, or something like that to keep them competitive because prior to that, I can never say this guy's name. Is it Kamar?
Yeah, I
Oh
mean,
Kamari?
yeah,
Kamara. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Kamara's
Kamari.
the better
Kamari,
player
yeah.
by far. Anyway.
So they still have him, and they can still use him out of the backfield. Now I don't know how well he'll be, how good he's going to recover from his injury, but they'll still find guys, and you still have Drew Brees back there who can still throw the ball and still manage the game pretty well. But I don't remember. I did look up who their first four opponents were, and I can't remember. I
And they
know.
have they have a draft, and they have a bye on week
and
6, so he's
and
gonna
and
miss 5 games. He's gonna miss 5 weeks.
I
If we're
know
talking,
one of the preseason games is against the Los Angeles Juggernaut. I mean Rams. I'm sorry, and
oh,
and
come on.
but
Put it this way: those first 4 games, if you're playing DraftKings, you better put your money on Dez because he might be getting a lot of balls thrown at him.
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
got Meredith, but that's the thing. Like they picked up the kid, Boston Scott. I like that. I like that name. It's like Baltimore Blaine, Boston Scott. Like you think about like some guy from an old '70s movie, some
It's
guy
like
with a
James
goatee.
Bond. It's
Boston
James
Scott.
Bond.
My name is Boston Scott.
My name is
I've
Scott.
lived here, and
Boston
he's from the
Scott.
Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. Boston Scott. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, Alvin Kamara, I think is probably looking at like in fantasy, he's up there like is one of the most dynamic backs in the NFL. Period. He's not built to be a bell cow back, but they got the Boston Scott who they just picked up. They got another kid who they picked up last year, and I don't know if you
they
remember, but the
they
Saints
make
don't like Ingram. They always bench him. They always try to get other people in there. Like he just keeps sticking around and keeps having success. But Sean Payton continuously tries to find ways to get him out of there. And I think that they're going to be just fine. I think that offense is going to shine. And I think that Ingram, if one of these guys hits, he's out.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Ingram's always been an insurance policy, right? You
right.
got to look at it like that. So
But
he's
go ahead.
worked for them. No, I mean just saying he's worked for them in many ways. That's been successful to a certain degree, but I don't know if Kamari there can be the full workhorse that they want. So they need to make sure that they get this other kid, this Scott, getting moving if they're going to use him on a full-time basis as well.
Yeah, the New Orleans never has a bell cow back. I mean, they're always a 2 or 3 back.
Oh, look
Sproles,
at when they had Adrian Peterson.
Bush.
They had three backs back there at that time, man.
Yeah, well, Adrian sucked though. That's what people forget. I mean, and then once they got rid of Adrian, Ingram and Kamara were as a tandem were head and shoulders the best running back tandem in the league, and the Saints became a team where
Well,
you had to watch out for the
that
run.
that
And all
team
of a,
from
and all
that
of a
team
sudden
from Atlanta though, those two
yeah,
backs from Atlanta were just as
they're
strong, and that's what New Orleans
they're
was
the
trying
only
to
ones
follow.
they're the only ones that come even close. But if you look at just talking about last year's numbers, and it's not even the same ballpark as what the guys in New Orleans did, especially coming out of the backfield. But I agree with you. But the point being is, I think the Saints are going to be fine. I don't think Kamara is going to be asked all of a sudden just because Ingram's not there that okay now we need you to carry the ball 30 times and catch the ball 20 times, because we're going to lean on you just because this one guy's out. I'm sure that they have some things that they're going to work on. They have Meredith there. They have a whole group of receivers coming in. They just got what's his name? What's the guy who's like older than us who's playing tight end for them? Ben Watson just came back in over there.
Oh yeah,
And
Ben White.
blocked.
Yeah.
They invested a lot into that offensive line, so now they got probably one of the top 4 offensive lines in the league. I mean, that team looks dangerous with or without Ingram. So I think that'll be okay. And we're gonna try and look into a little bit more and do some research and have some conversations about the testing policy and stuff, and some stances I think that need to be taken. But that's a little bit later on. I want to finish the show on something that a lot of people are talking about this week, and I've talked about it on a couple of different shows. It's the reaction that Ben Roethlisberger had when they drafted that rookie, and he started complaining. Whereas last year he was saying, I don't know if I'm going to play. If you look at his Twitter feed, it says, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I know my wife wouldn't mind if I spent more time with her. And he says all this stuff during the off season, and then they pick this kid up, and he says, I want to play for 4 more years. I don't know why they picked a running back. If he asks me for help, I'm just going to point at the playbook. They calling him a kid. And then I look at this article on ESPN today, and it's from Adam Teicher. Sorry about I butchered the name. Teicher. And it says, more proof Alex Smith was a perfect mentor for Patrick Mahomes. And it goes in the article, it just talks about how much extra time Alex Smith spent with the kid, even though it was obvious that he was brought in to be
Take
Alex
his
Smith's
job.
heir apparent, yeah, take his job, and that with his contract coming up the next year, that he was out. But talks about here how if he succeeds in the NFL, Mahomes could buy Alex Smith a castle, and it wouldn't even measure up to how much he owes him for all the work that Alex put into him. See, to me, that's like I don't understand why someone would be a classy teammate like that, just a classy player. It just makes no sense to me. If you love the game and you love your team, and you be a professional,
Hey, you got to look right over at the Super Bowl champs. Look at that quarterback duo. Right?
I know.
You got Wentz, who came in there, led everything, did everything, was on his way to being the number one man throughout the entire season to get injured, and then Foles comes in and not only gets the full praise from Wentz and the rest of everybody else, but he kept mentoring one another out there, and that's exactly what you need in this league. Now you're getting these big guys coming in like Big Ben saying, well, you should have took somebody that's going to help us win now. What the heck, man? First off, you haven't won either. You need somebody to replace you.
Can I sum this up?
Yeah, I know Chris Taylor has a little bit of a different view on this.
We can sum it up in one word, and it's character. When you talk about the type of people who are not in trouble, never in the spotlight, quote unquote, never in the wrong place at the wrong time, never out at the club with with groupies taking selfies and boob shots. You don't hear about those kind of things from character guys like an Alex Smith, like a Nick Foles. They're very family oriented, very faith oriented, and faith driven. So they understand the bigger picture in life versus a guy who I would say doesn't or hasn't matured to that level, or maybe hasn't been exposed to that level at this point in life. But that's the reason why you can get a guy like Alex Smith to mentor a young guy, and a person like Ben Roethlisberger, who's all over the place, and then has the nerve to get an attitude when they decide, hey, since you don't know what you're going to do, we have no choice but to move in this direction, and this is where we want to go. We needed to get somebody to help the team right now. Well, the first thing that'll help the team right now is some confidence that their quarterback wants to play. So again, I mean, not saying that Ben Roethlisberger is a bad guy, but when you look at the backgrounds of these guys and the type of people that they are, it's no wonder that he takes that kind of stance and that kind of attitude and gives this young guy a hard time.
And you know what? I will automatically agree with you on everything like that. And I think you also got to look also, and too bad we don't have, but just something to bring up to Baltimore Blaine is his Flacco's doing the same thing to Lamar Jackson as well over there. There's a lot of things happening there with Flacco saying, well, if Ben can do it, hey, I can do this too, because I'm coming up for contract as well soon. And I'm not going to have some kid come in here and take my job, blah, blah, blah. So like I said, to me, the organization, the teams are saying, look we need a backup at every position. That's really what it comes down to.
I will say this one thing, and we'll bring this up tomorrow on the show with Baltimore playing tomorrow. I'd say the big difference with Flacco is the fact that Flacco could lose his job.
Yeah,
Ben's not going anywhere. Flacco, if they go down,
look
if they lose 4 or 5 games, Flacco might be out.
No, I agree with that, but I think Ben's one hit away from being out.
Yeah, but he's not going to get benched. That's what I'm saying.
Well, if you throw 5 picks against another team, you never know, right?
Yeah. I still don't think
you gotta look. There's a few things they gotta look at, because I'm gonna say this right now before the season starts. Is you already got dissension on that team. You've got guys being franchise tagged. You just got rid of a receiver that didn't want to play for you for numerous reasons. They're still having troubles on the defensive ways. They're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Now you got Ben coming in there like he's the alpha male who's gonna dictate what everybody does. Like I said, you gotta coach up there and start saying, all right, we need to take control of this right away because I need everybody on the same page. And right now, they don't have that. Not in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that the character guys went out on a regular basis. I think you're going to see a lot of changes. We saw last year in Philadelphia how important it is to have that good backup quarterback that you can trust. When Ben would go out in the past, because he almost never finishes the season with all 16 games under his belt. They always lose. They get crushed. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to have someone that can pick up. The idea for a backup is if you go out for 4 games, you want him to go 2-2 so you can get back on track and make the playoffs. That's what you want your backup to be able to do. I mean, Foles is the home run deal, but at least you want to get it. And they haven't had that in the last 10 years.
And if you think about it, look when Brady got suspended for 4 games, right? If they didn't have their backup quarterbacks, everybody's going, oh, well, the Patriots are going to be 0-4. You know what I mean? What happens? These backups are doing everything right. If they didn't get banged up or injured right off the hop, you know what I mean? But it still gave Brady enough to say, hey, we're still in the mix. I mean, we only lost, 1 game? Like, come on. I'm not even playing yet. So, I mean, really, if something happens to Ben where he has to go out for whatever a reason is, to know that we haven't lost a beat and I'm still going to be back, say, 1 week or 2 weeks later, he should be thank goodness we've got a guy like this. You know what I mean? And that's not what he's doing.
Chris, do you remember the response that I got when I made the statement that I didn't think Carson Wentz was MVP? Do you remember how brutal the people were to me, the Philly fans especially?
Oh, on the show? Yeah.
Yeah, think about this. The reason why I made that statement was if your team was rolling, you lose your star quarterback, and then your backup, who has been bounced around from several different teams, steps in, and without missing a beat, you continue to roll over the teams, and the competition got formidably better each week. So if they would have lost any of those, then there's an argument, Carson Wentz, but they didn't. They still won, they still put up numbers, and they still played heck of a defense. There are systems in place that these coaches are developing nowadays that takes away from the value of a Peyton Manning or, in this respect, a Tom Brady, because now you can come in with a system and it's player plug and play. So, and a lot of these quarterbacks are taking gambles on themselves now. And we see that with Kirk Cousins and the thing that he did and stuff like that. They're gambling on themselves because of the thin market of quarterbacks that are out there. How do you get a backup quarterback how much was the backup making? 30 million, 40 million. That's a backup. But that's the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you guys, and that's something that we're going to talk about in the next couple of years. The income inequality. In this case, talking about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Not other things. But yeah, I think we touched on everything. Great show, guys. Go Jets. I hope that they do something good for you, man. I'm rooting for you.
Man, you just watch and you see. I'm going to be holding that Stanley Cup with them. You watch. I'm going to be in there somehow.
That's just how I am. You know what I mean? You're acting like we're having a conversation here. I'm trying to support you.
Hey, coach, don't get Kevin Harted. You know what I mean?
Oh no, man! I go in sober. I'll go in sober. Don't you worry.
Oh man. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a chunk of the ice with me, baby.
Oh man, that's
I'm glad I'm not famous. I'm glad cameras don't follow me around. It would be a funky show. All right, guys. So tomorrow night we have a friend of this show, Coach John Downey, is going to join us on the Mess Around Friday night tomorrow night to talk a little bit about how I think his Panthers are getting sneaky good. They made some really good moves that a lot of people aren't talking about. We'll talk a little bit more about those Saints that we just mentioned and some of the other teams in the division. We'll get him back on to this show very soon. Once again, email us at knuckleheadpods@gmail.com. Find us at NuckPods on Twitter. And we will see you here next week. Thanks, guys. We're out.